So we're making wing access panels today. I want a couple of access panels for underneath the wing on the 701 right next to the cabin. So if we're looking at it, why the fuel tank is going to take up this first bay and then the cabin will be over here, I want an access panel underneath here so that I can connect my fuel lines and disconnect my fuel lines if we have to take wings off and things like that. So that will be my access point for that. And what I'm going to do is do an oval access panel. At one point I had done these, which completely assembled look like this. It's going to go over the fuel senders and the top of the wing. And originally I was going to do 4 fuel tanks. For right now I'm only doing 2, so I'm only going to use 2 of these that I've got made up. So this one for under the wing, and I may use this same access panel other places, but for right now I'm just going to produce 2 of these. This is the main configuration I've come up with, and you can see all my extra little scribble lines. So what I'm going to do to start with is we're just going to adhere this to this piece of hardboard, just a 1/4 inch piece of, or 3/16, looks like 3/16, maybe it's 1/4, tempered hardboard. I'm going to use that for basically a master, and then once I get this made and the other components for this portion of the jig, then we'll go back and we'll make a fixture to cut out the tops to match, and then we'll also make one to cleco onto the wing itself once we position it to rat out the hole for it to accept this, so it's the mirror image or the reverse copy of this. So that's the plan for the day. I'll take you on for a little bit of it. Nothing real rocket science here. I take these, and normally I've got a can of Super 77 adhesive. I will glue these 2 together, which I will do. I did get a little sticker shock. I wandered over the lace hardware I was out of Super 77. So they now have the same size can, it looks like, that we used to get. And they also make a smaller can. The smaller can is about the same price as what we used to pay, and this one's a third more. So a little bit of sticker shock there, but I'm really not surprised. So price of doing business, price of playing with airplanes here. So anyway, we're just going to stick these together and start cutting them out, sanding them out. I'll bring you along for parts of it, and we'll just see how it goes. Give that a couple minutes to tack up. So these will be our holes for our nut plates, and these are going to be the standard rivet holes. There, 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 and we'll probably add another one in between on these. But for right now, since we're stuck down here the way we're supposed to be, we're just going to go to the bandsaw, cut these out, and probably cut out the center. I'll do that on the scroll saw, so I'll just drill a hole and set it up on the scroll saw, cut those out, and then we'll sand them out. Now it's off to the scroll saw. All right, there's where it looks to that point. That'll be the back plate, the cover. Of course, this will be rounded and we'll figure out our contours in a bit, but it will set on like this. So the cutout in the skin will go halfway in between here, basically. Now, I'm not going to get too precision with this. If these covers only go on one way, I'm actually okay with that. They should be pretty good the way they're drilled out or the way they're laid out, but we'll see. So I'm going to go ahead and just go to the drill press, and I don't know that it's that necessary to use the drill press either because this is so thin, but we're going to drill it all of these holes along the way. And I think we'll still add in the corners. I think we'll add one in between. This is our cover hole to hold our cover on. This is a rivet hole, and I think we'll do one more in between. It's not really necessary, I'm sure, but I think we'll do that anyway. I'm not going to drill those holes yet. We'll drill the rest of them. Actually, we could. These are 3/8 of an inch in. 3/4. 3/8 of an inch in is about where those are too. Yeah, let's wait and see where our holes come out here. And do that. So we're going to drill those, actually we're just going to drill those number 40 to hold clecos for right now. Eventually they'll be 3/16 for A and 3 rivets. Alright, so here's our fixturing. So what I think I'm going to do is we'll just go ahead and drill all of these holes and then cleco them in place. Make sure we're got enough material all the way around. Now this is just for our outside profiles, the only thing we're going to cut with these. And what we will do with this is we'll take this to the router, cut our outside profile, and then we'll just countersink a carriage bolt through both layers of it to sandwich our part in between, because this will be cut out later on. And then we'll just use 2 index pins, probably like here and here, to index up our blanks in there. I probably should actually do this in the drill press so we're assured that they're straight on through. Maybe I'll go do that. Be right back. There's the first one. So we got 2 blanks in there. I've just drilled the initial pilot holes. We're going to go ahead and drill for a carriage bolt first. Guess we should have tightened that drill bit in there. So those two drill bits will align things there. We counterbored the back side of this to accept a carriage bolt, so it'll sit down below the surface. That goes on. That's supposed to go on. There we go. That holds everything in alignment. I'm going to go ahead, so it's flat on the table. I'll go ahead and drill those other holes around there, and then go ahead and I probably should trim that a little bit closer, just so the router doesn't have to work quite as hard. I'll just get a little bit of it off of there. I should have taken the time to actually cut these to the line, but that's all right. Yeah, that's close enough. So I'll go ahead and go and drill these, and then we'll route the outside edge. So here it is, just flush trim route. We've done lots of those in the past, so nothing new and exciting there. So let's open that up. They got our index pins. These are used crappy number 40 drill bits. So there's our two blanks, just like that. And then we're going to mark them here to show that they're up, and that's the top. So now we want to set up our fixture. That'll be the number one fixture. We're not going to put that back together yet because we're going to use this one. So now we've got our outside contour on this one, which will be the top for the inside cutout. What we're going to do is we're going to lay this out right like this. And we'll just center it up, and we're going to put two bolts in this one in this outside corner and one in this outside corner. So what I'm going to do is, rather than use this template right now, we're going to use this one. That way we know our holes are still in the same place, which is not going to be a big deal because we've already got it indexed. So for this one, the only thing we need is two index holes to set that up. We're still going to set it up off of this one. So let me go, and I'm going to drill these two holes in this. and we'll be right back. All right, somebody neglected to turn the camera on. So we went ahead, marked out our template with our 2 holes drilled, and then we just went to the scroll saw, cut that out. Now we'll put our template back on here. And we're going to go out to the router table and just route out the inside. Take out those index pins. And actually we want to mark where we want. Let's put one up here and one right here. So this will be our second setup here. Why are we not sitting quite flat there? Well, all right, so let's drill a couple of holes here. I'll do the same thing I did before. I won't bother to show it, but we're just going to drill 2 1/4-inch holes through there, and then a counterbore on the back side. Okay, we're getting close to having these formed up. So I did the same thing, put them together with our index pins, put our bolts in, drilled some holes around there, and then just ran it around the route to pattern route it. Come on up there. That should come right up off of there. Let's try putting our index pins in here first. We can put this down on it, hopefully. Just like that. Put our top portions on. Just like that. Everything's lined up again. Yeah, we're not gonna worry about that too much for the 2 little ones that we're gonna do. We're still indexed up. Everything's good. I'm gonna go to the router table. I'll be right back. Okay, and that took all of about 30 seconds to do that. Of course, we've got aluminum chips all over, but nonetheless, that's that. We can pull those index pins out of there, maybe. Loosen up our wing nuts here. And there's our two blanks. Those are the ones that will go up in the wing. They'll be riveted on here around the outer ring of holes, and then we'll have nut plates on the inner ring of holes. They have to be deburred. So that's the fixtures up to that point. Now, what I think we'll do next, these all have to be deburred and everything, but I think I'll go ahead and drill the inner holes. Now let's do one of these. That's the way they show to start out with. What happens when we reverse them? Yeah, we're not lined up exactly the same. Yeah, so this portion of it at least will be directional, which doesn't make a bit of difference. There's not anything that's an issue with that at all. So let's go ahead and drill these out to a 3/16, which will accept our 1032s, which is what our nut plates are. Verify our hole size before we get too carried away. So where's the hole that we just drilled out here? Oh, we did it in a scrap, didn't we? Duh. Well, that's the right size for our holes. Now, I played with countersinking these when I built the other ones, and they just come out nicer when they've got a when they're not countersunk. The nut plates really aren't set up to, those particular nut plates don't really care for a countersunk screw, or a dimpled screw, excuse me, which would be this one right here. Now if we were to put them in, the nut plates themselves are not dimpled. Although when they go in there, they probably would be fine. Seems to me they didn't really want to set down in there right. Because the nut plates themselves don't really have room for a dimple down in there. Yeah, I think for right now we're just going to set these up for standard on the top, and then if we want to go back and countersink them, shave them, do something else, well, we certainly can. Because the reality is, this is not a real streamlined airplane. So we're going to go through and we're going to drill our center hole, or our inside row of holes. look like that. Right, come on now. And let's deburr those so they sit down a little bit nicer. Now if we were to take our nut plate that's going to sit underneath here like this, and then so it sits all the way down without engaging the lock on that, we put a little washer underneath. Screw that down to where it's pretty well snug. Go ahead and line our nut plate, just like that. Then if we were to take us 2x4 like that, countersink it, that will set in there quite nicely. There's our first one right there. We'll just use this one and move right on around. Helps if you don't lose all your little screws. And that screw got donated to the Cleco gods. You do know about the Cleco gods, I'm sure. You're required to pay homage to them by donating Clecos periodically, that you drop them on the floor and they automatically take them to the altar of the god of Cleco. Or so the story goes. I have to order some more number 40 drill bits. And my word of advice is to go ahead and suck it up and pay the money and buy good drill bits. These were a Amazon cheapy pack of number 40 drill bits, and they work okay in aluminum, at least when you first start out. Once you've used them for a very short time, why, they're kind of garbage. And I've learned not to even try and drill into steel with them, 4130, because it doesn't like it. So anyway, just go ahead, go all the way around and drill them that way, and we'll finish out those holes. Then we'll come back and see where we're at. All right, I got the first one pretty well ready to rivet the nut plates on. Now what I am going to do is wipe it down and prime it very quickly. I've been priming everything on this plane, so this is no exception. So I'll go ahead and prime it, and then we'll come back and start riveting these nut plates on. And then I'm going to call it a day after that, I think. Now, what I've done, I've got them all laid out, and I have countersunk these with a countersunk cage, and just very lightly. Now, the reason being, and before the airplane police come and get me, why, my reason for, I realize that they are material this thin should be dimpled rather than countersunk. My reasoning for doing that is it lays down much nicer. These nut plates do not readily accept a countersink, so it doesn't really work with this particular nut plate anyway, and the only thing that they're doing is holding these nut plates in position. So I don't think it's an issue at all. It's not from my lack of not knowing that they're supposed to be dimpled rather than countersunk, but in this particular instance for this, why, I'm perfectly happy just countersinking them here. Like I say, it's just a placeholder for these nut plates is all they're doing. So let me go ahead and prime this, and we'll come back and rivet it together. All right, time to get this show on the road here now. So this is our outside, this one will be our downside, inside, whatever you want to call it. Now we may go back, and depending on how it lays out, and I'm not going to worry about it quite yet, why, I may go back and countersink the center hole and then dimple the cover sheet so I can put a countersunk screw on there. That's a possibility, and we'll get to that eventually, but I'm not in a big hurry for that. Oh, come on, get in there. Goes on there just like yay. We take our little squeezer, it's just like that. I would like to see just a little more squeeze on that, I think. There's the way they look. guess I could have got out the pneumatic squeezer, but that's just way too much work for these little bitty rivets. That little tinging you hear in the background is I've got 4 or 5 rules hanging from the rafters all in a row, and the fan's blowing there to cool me down a little bit. It's blowing past those rules, so they're banging against each other. There they are. So that's where we're at for the day. Got them all situated. And tomorrow I'll go ahead and build the covers for it. And we'll get them finished up. But that's enough of this foolishness for the day. All riveted in place. Access panel should be big enough to reach in there to tighten, loosen, install, remove fuel lines, fuel fittings, all that good stuff. Anyway, there we go. That's enough for today. I'll probably finish this one up in the morning, so they're both done real quick, and then we'll go on to building the covers for them. I got both of my little backing plates are all finished up, ready to be riveted in place. I went ahead and made my cover plates, did the exact same procedure I did on the other ones. I made me a hardboard cutout for that. We drilled them to match, cut our top plate, made our top plate, pattern routed that, hooked that to the bottom one, drilled it, pattern routed it. So after I did that, I went back and cut me 2 blanks right here like this. And of course they will screw right on in place right there. And I have marked them top and top because they'll go on a certain way, and I haven't checked to see which way these are. It really doesn't matter for this application because we can flip them, since right now we're just putting flat screws in, or panhead screws. Somewhere around here this should line up. Huh. Not that way. How about that way? Guess I should have checked this before I turned the camera on. There we go. That will match. So this is going to be the top up here too. I'm only doing one of these, so I won't worry about marking the second one right now. So anyway, what's going to happen is I did that. Those will screw in place, and I'll screw those on to position it here in a bit. Then I cut the part that's going to route out the hole in the wing skin, or wherever we're going to put this plate in. So I did this by hand. I did the exact same thing as I did for the center cutout here. I went ahead, laid it out, and I traced around this one. So we want a little bit of clearance around this, between this and this. By the time they get painted up and put in place and everything, gives a little bit of wiggle room and not going to be noticeable at all. So, and then I went back and I just hand sanded this until I got a nice fit inside there. So we've cut a blank, and it doesn't matter. The way I plan to start out with these is this will be the outside of the skin, which where these are going is going to be the bottom of the skin right there at the root rib. So this would work equally well on the inside, and then route from the outside, which in some applications will happen. This will probably have to be trimmed down, and then I can probably install it with double-sided tape. I can do any number of things. I could drill it in Cleco positioned off of that, whatever the case may be. So anyway, I just cut a piece of skin material, same size. For right now, I think we're just gonna tape it on there, and I think that'll be strong enough for the, if we tape it down real good, strong enough to hold it while we route it out. And we're not gonna be stingy with our tape at all because we do want this to hold in place. And we're going to pattern route this out just like we would any of the other stuff that we've already pattern routed. Going to be solid on there? Yeah, I think it is. So let's go ahead and drill us a hole here to be able to get our router in. And I realize I'm not showing quite as much of the setup on this because this is all stuff we've done before. We're going to pattern route it exactly the same way. Enough to get our router in. They're still pretty solid. So I'll go out and route this out and we'll come back and see how all it's going to fit. So here's our routed out hole, and we can tune this before we actually rivet anything in place if we need to. But let's look and see how we did. So that should be the last little template in the way everything goes together. And that should fit right up there just like that. And yeah, we'll have to tune it just a little bit, it looks like, but that's not bad. Let me get the blue cleaned off of there so that we can maybe see a little bit better about what we're doing there. The bad thing about this is it's going to want to take that primer off too. I should have taken this off before we put it together. That'll give us a little bit better idea. So then that should set on there just like that. Let's get us a couple little clamps here to clamp it together real quick until we get a couple of holes in it. And I'm not going to rivet this on because this is just a demonstrator here type of thing. There's that. We would flip her over like that. Yeah, we're still a little bit tight. We could open that up a little bit more, but I think we'll just, for the 2 that we're going to do at this point in time, for the very small number that we're going to do on this plane, I think we'll just fit the cover itself when we install them. Yeah, see, that's actually about how much gap I want to leave all the way around. So we're tightening the corner a little bit along that edge. Tighten all the corners, but that's okay. There we go. Now see, to tune that just a little bit, what I want to do is I want to shorten up these . I'm not going to bother to tune the edges of this right now, because I think you've pretty much got the idea of how it all goes together. And when I install these into the skin, we'll install them with countersunk rivets. And I may convert these to countersunk too, I don't know, we'll see. And there's the way your access cover looks on the inside. So, lays down nice. That'll work good. So anyway, hopefully that gives you a few ideas. Not that difficult a thing to do. So, that'll take care of that. So next project up is I've been fitting controls into this and into the 701, and those of you who have followed me for a long time have seen my little flap handle conversion. I didn't like the original flap handle, and Zenith had come out with theirs, but they only sell the kit, so I kind of designed my own, and I was fitting the controls up for that today. And got everything fitted in the way I think I wanted it, and had interference with the hole in the front of the seat that the flap handle goes down through. I've got this whole assembly too low. So went back, did some figuring and everything, and I had two options. I could either take my handle itself and shorten it up, and that would have given me the clearance. If I would have just shortened it up to where it's set up here, would have given me the clearance I needed, but it would have also changed the moment of how much movement we have in the flap assembly in relation to the handle itself. So took it out, got to looking, figuring on it, and I'd like to raise the whole flap assembly up about 1 inch, and I've got room to do that. This still leaves this edge below the edge of the seat, frame for the seat, and raise it up. That gives me clearance through the lightning hole that goes through here and gives a little bit straighter shot anyway. So I think my moment's just about right. The length's just about right for it to give the flap travel I want. If I have to, once I've raised it up, I can then either lengthen or shorten this handle accordingly to what I think I need if I do need to change it. But I'm going to go ahead and mock it back up. Just build this. I'm going to extend these feet down an extra inch, and I'm going to lengthen out the flange so that I can still use the 4 existing mounting holes and then put one more hole in each side on the top. So that'll be the next project. Anyway, this is the way I do access panels. Hopefully you find something interesting there. Comment suggestions, leave them in the comment section for me below, guys. And as always, thanks for taking the time to watch.